So thank you everybody so much for being here today. I'm so happy to be here to discuss this important topic with you guys, and thank you so much again for being here. So before I start today, I'd like to play a little game. It's called Stand Up, Sit Down. So if everybody wouldn't mind standing up for me. Please rise. Okay, so I'm gonna say a couple things, and if they are true for you, then you sit down. So I'm gonna say a statement, and if it's true for you, sit down. So the first one is, I am a teacher. Okay. Perfect. If it's true for you, it's just go ahead and sit down. Perfect. I'm an actor. Nice. We have some actors here today. I am a musician. Right on. I am a graphic designer. Hello to my friend, graphic designers. I am a visual artist. And I am a creator. And lastly, I have a cell phone. Right on. Okay. Thank you.
She has two.
Oh, look at that. Well, this presentation's perfect for you. Okay. Okay, so now I want everyone to do one more thing for me. I would like everyone to power off their cell phone. So don't just put it on silent. I would like you to completely power it off. And it won't be off the whole presentation, so we'll get you to power it back on a little bit later on. But just for a second, I'm just going to give everybody a second to power off their cell phone. All right. Now I just want everyone to take a moment and think about how they felt when I asked them to power off their cell phone. So you don't have to say anything to me or like respond at all. I just want you to think about it for a couple minutes, just how you felt when I asked you to power your cell phone. Did you have any resistance to that? Were you perfectly fine with that? Just kind of think about that. And we'll get back to your cell phones a little bit later in the presentation. Okay, so a couple things I'd like to share about myself, just to help spread some light on my perspective for this presentation, so you know a bit where I'm coming from. The first is I'm a visual artist. I work in a surrealist pop art style. The second is that I run some social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and Pinterest. There's other online platforms that I also use for my business. So those include Patreon, YouTube, Squarespace, Etsy, Society6, and recently Skillshare. I have a graphic design degree from Red River College, and I also attended Ontario College of Art and Design. I am a mental health advocate, and I believe discussing these topics is so important to community health and wellness. And lastly, I'm a teacher, and I teach media literacy. I have artist online resources, and then I also teach about watercolor painting and acrylic painting. So just a little bit about me before we continue. Okay, so this is our table of contents for our presentation today. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about understanding the designs of social media apps. The second thing we're going to talk about is the possible effects of social media, and then we're going to move on to how to recognize when it's too much. And lastly, we're going to talk about creating healthy boundaries. Okay, so understanding app design. Before we can talk about how social media affects us, it's important to understand how the apps are designed. So as I did my research for this presentation, I found it so shocking how little information there is about the actual designs of these social media apps that we use. There's a lot about the effects of the apps and overuse of the apps, but not a lot of people are discussing the actual app design. And to me, this is so pertinent in understanding their possible effects. So let's get into how these apps are designed. Okay, so my first point is that apps are free because you are not the client. Advertisers are the customers, and your attention is what's being sold. Have you ever wondered why apps are always free? It's because you are the user, but you are not the client. The client is who makes the money for the app companies, and in this case, that is the advertisers. Every minute that you spend on social media is a minute that you're spending making money for somebody else. And the more you're online, the more opportunity an advertiser has to show you an ad and thus make themselves some money. So here we have an image of the Facebook sign-up page. It has a couple things enticing you to sign up and all the great things that you'll be able to take part in when you sign up. But yeah, it's very important to understand that these apps are free for a reason, and you are not the client. Okay, so this is another important point that people need to understand when using social media, is that voluntary user data collection. So everything you do on social media is tracked in the form of data and later used to target you by paying advertisers. So Antonio Garcia Martinez, a former product manager at Facebook, writes in his memoir, Chaos Monkeys, the company is the biggest regulator, the regulator of the biggest accumulation of personal data since DNA. This data is sold to advertisers to target market their particular audience. This is not limited to online information about you. Apps go as far to purchase information from data collection companies, and they will know details about your life, such as your income, your credit history, purchases you've made online, and the list goes on and on. Every single thing that you do on social media, apps are tracked, and then, like I said, they're used to target market advertisements that you will be interested in based on your use. By using an app, you are voluntarily giving away data about yourself. Do you ever notice that if you search for something on Instagram, say you're looking for basketballs or basketball players, and you search for that, then the next day you'll see ads start popping up that have to do with basketballs or basketball players or the NBA, and you're like, oh, this is weird, like I'm interested in this, like how do they know? So my next point is that the algorithms are based on rewarding engagement. So algorithms for apps like Instagram and Facebook are based on engagement, intending to keep users online for as long as possible. So the algorithm affects all of your posts, and so if you want your posts to do well as a content creator, you need to make sure that they're as engaging and attractive as possible. So if we think about that, it can start to lead you on to see like how they're trying to keep you on the apps. Content creators are the puppets. So content creators are the workhorses of these apps, the ones who create the media that keep users online. So if you host a media account, you're creating content to keep your viewers online, but also help the advertisers gain money and the apps learn information about you. So it's just important to know when using these apps, because it's not talked about for obvious reasons. And it's really important to help us start to understand how these apps work and how they can affect us. So just a quick recap of these points before we move forward. Apps are free because you are not the client. You are giving voluntary data collection every time you use the app. The algorithms are based on rewarding engagement, so rewarding people for staying on the app as long as possible, and content creators are the puppets. Also, when you're posting on your social media, if you are sending people outside to outside platforms, that negatively affects your post. So for example, if I post on my Instagram account and I say, hey everybody, I just have a new YouTube video, go check it out, and then people go to click on my link and leave the app to go to the YouTube app, then they will slow down my post. The algorithm will slow down my post and show it to less people. Whereas if I say, hey, everybody, go check out my story, my Instagram post on my feed is sending people to my story, that's keeping people in the app, and so the algorithm is affected positively, and it will be shown to more people. So there's all these things to be, they're all intricacies of the apps, but they're very important to be aware of. Okay, so as you can see from the last couple slides, social media app design is a perfect recipe for addiction. So I'm gonna start, as we begin to understand how these apps are designed, we can begin to see a correlation to addiction. The apps are constructed to be as addictive as possible, keeping the user online. Without the user, the advertisers have no one to advertise to and thus make no money. So the first topic I'm going to talk about today is nomophobia. So nomophobia, smartphone addiction, sometimes colloquially known as nomophobia, which is the fear of being without a mobile phone, is often fueled by an internet overuse problem or internet addiction disorder. After all, it's rarely the phone or tablet itself that creates the compulsion, but rather the games, apps, and online worlds that it connects us to. So nomophobia, perhaps the most pertinent to this group of creatives in terms of mental health effects on social media. And then next we have smartphone addiction. So smartphone addiction can change your brain. So one study by German researchers found that smartphone addiction physically changes the shape and size of the human brain in a similar way to the organ of a drug addict. And that's taken from Daily Mail. So that's kind of can start to get you to see how strong the effects of any kind of addictive platform are. And then lastly, we have needing that dopamine rush. So like the use of drugs and alcohol, apps can trigger the release of the brain chemical dopamine and alter your mood. You can also rapidly build up tolerance so that it takes more time in front of these screens to derive the same pleasure reward. So according to an article by Harvard University researcher Trevor Haynes, when you get a social media notification, your brain sends a chemical messenger called dopamine along a reward pathway, which makes you feel good. Dopamine is associated with food, exercise, love, sex, gambling, drugs, and now social media. Variable reward schedules are up the ante. Psychologist B.F. Skinner first described this in the 1930s. When rewards are delivered randomly, as with a slot machine or a positive interaction on social media, and checking for the reward is easy, the dopamine triggering behavior becomes a habit. And that's from a neuroscience article by Kelly McSweeney. You can build up a tolerance to these triggers, needing more and more interactions, likes, followers, that to get that same rush. So this is very important to be aware of too. So here are some other ways overuse of social media can be harmful. So now, unfortunately, there's a lot of these, but I tried to pick the ones that were the most relatable to a creative career and lifestyle. So the first one is increased stress. So constant connection to these apps can make your work life bleed into your home life, fueling the need to always be on and never giving you a break. Concentration, so constantly being bombarded with bings and buzzes is extremely distracting and can be a barrier to getting in the zone and getting work completed. And then sleep deprivation, so not setting boundaries for your social media use can affect your sleep and leave you constantly feeling exhausted. And then fueling anxiety and depression. So this is a really big one as well. So constant comparison, feelings of not being good enough, loneliness, withdrawals from society, all these things can be an effect of overuse of social media. Okay. So how do you know when it's too much? So the first sign is how do you know when it's too much? So you want to perform a self-audit of warning signs. So the first one is trouble completing tasks at home or at work. So do you find laundry piling up and little food in the house for dinner because you've been busy chatting online, texting, or playing video games? Perhaps you find yourself working late more often because you can't complete your work on time. The second one is isolation from family and friends. So is your social life suffering because of all of the time you spend on your phone or other device? If you're in a meeting or chatting with friends, do you lose track of what's being said because you're checking your phone? Have your friends and family express concern about the amount of time you spend on your phone? And do you feel like no one in your real life, even your spouse, understands you like your online friends? So it's actually really interesting, too, that this online media has created a whole new dialogue for people, too. Like, there's new slang like IRL. Does anybody know what IRL is? Anyone with a raise a hand? Yeah. That's right. So now people are using actual slang to differentiate their lives online and their lives offline. So it's very impactful. Number 3 is concealing your smartphone use. So do you sneak off to a quiet place to use your phone? Do you hide your smartphone use or lie to your boss and family members about the amount of time you spend online? Do you get irritated or cranky if your online time is interrupted? So that's one to be aware of. And then number 4, having a fear or missing out, FOMO. So do you hate feeling out of the loop or think you're missing out on important news or information if you don't check your phone regularly? Do you need to compulsively check social media because you're anxious that others are having a better time or leading a more exciting life than you? And do you get up at night to check your phone? So this one is really, really big with teenagers. This FOMO, fear of missing out, fear of not knowing about parties or social events or being, left out. So in a lot of my research, they talked about this FOMO, which sounds kind of funny, like it's a slang term in itself, but it's becoming increasingly more of an issue with teenagers. And then our last point here is feeling of dread, anxiety, or panic if you leave your smartphone at home. So feeling dread, anxiety, or panic if you leave your smartphone at home, the battery runs down or the operating system crashes, or do you feel phantom vibrations? You think your phone has vibrated, but when you check, there are no messages or updates. This is a good one to keep an eye on. So this has definitely happened to me. Has it happened to anybody here where you feel like your phone has buzzed or gone off, and when you check it, nothing's happened? Yeah, it's definitely happened to me, and I didn't even know that it was a thing until I was researching this, and then I was like, oh, like that's actually a thing. Yeah, there's been a couple times where I felt some sort of buzz, I felt some sort of vibration, or I thought I heard a sound, and I'd go to check, and then I have no new messages. So it's called phantom vibration. So just on this point, for me, doing my own self-audits, sometimes now I'll go for walks with my partner and I'll leave my phone at home. I won't even take it with me. Or if we're going for a drive and I know we're only going to be gone for an hour or two, I'll leave my phone at home. I often leave my phone in different rooms, and by just giving yourself that separation time, you can really start to gauge how you're feeling about your phone not being right with you. And if you find it hard, then you might want to start to create some healthy boundaries. Okay. So now we're going to move on to creating healthy boundaries online and offline. So it's important to create these healthy boundaries on your in your online life, but also in your offline life or in your IRL life, in your real life. So right now, I'm going to ask everybody to just take a minute and power your phone back on. Okay. So we're going to talk about creating boundaries online just to start. So you can set up limitations right on the apps. So on an app like Instagram, you can set up daily activity reminders and notifications that tell you about your social media use. So we're going to do a little Instagram walkthrough. So with a show of hands, does everybody here have Instagram? If you have Instagram, put your hand up. Okay. Does everybody have Facebook? Okay. Okay, so for the walkthrough, if you want to join in on someone, or you can just have a seat and listen, no problem. But we're going to do it on Instagram. So if everybody will open up their Instagram app. Okay, so firstly, your app must be updated. So if this doesn't quite work for you, it could just mean that you need to do an update. So don't worry about that. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go to your profile page, which is the little person at the bottom right of your screen. So this is my profile page here. That's the area that you should be at. And then you're going to click on the 3 lines at the top right-hand corner of the screen. And that should take you to this page here. And then you should see select your activity. So there's a little clock, and it should say your activity. And if you push on that, then you will get to this screen here. And this screen will tell you your daily average of how you spent your day using the Instagram app and during the week, your daily average of how many minutes that you're online. And then through this area, you can set a daily reminder. So there's a little area that says set daily reminder, and you can choose hours or minutes of how long you want to allow yourself to be on social media before you get a notification telling you that it's time to move on with your day and read a book or do something else. The other thing is you can also change your notification settings. So that's your second option here. And basically, what you can do is you can set which push notifications your phone gets. So a push notification is a notification from the apps to your main screen of your phone to alert you. So for example, if I got a new friend on Instagram, there'd be a pop-up on my main screen of my phone saying, you have a new friend, this person has added you. So you can set which ones you get. So for me, for my business, like to respond to all comments when people comment on my Instagram pictures or my stories. I like to respond to all comments to help create a sense of community, but also it helps the algorithm. So for that, I have a push notification that comes to my phone and says, you got a comment, this person commented, so that way I can respond in a timely fashion. And then things that I don't have on, so I don't have followers. So if I gain a new follower, I don't have a notification coming to my phone on that. If I gain, new likes on a photo. I don't have push notifications on that. So you can manage here the notifications that your phone is sending you from the app, which is very important. Because if you don't moderate this at all, your phone could be going off all the time, depending on your activity online. So, and you can also do this for other apps. So you can do this same process for Facebook, very similar, as well as other apps that you have as well. So that's one way that you can create these boundaries. Another thing is about muting or unfollowing. So when you follow someone, you get their feed, but let's say that you have someone in your life that you want to support, but you don't necessarily like to see about their business constantly. So, for example, I'm a painter. I have a good friend who's into ceramics, but I'm not into ceramics. I actually am, but just as an example. I'm not into ceramics, so keeping her feed coming up on my Instagram, showing me all her ceramics all the time is driving me nuts. So instead of unfollowing her, because I don't want to unfollow her, I still want to support her, I can go into the app and I can mute her. And I have the option to mute just feed posts or story posts as well. And then I still stay with the following relationship. I still have given her, a new follow, but I'm not constantly bombarded with her media. And this is especially important for accounts that will make you feel bad about yourself or bad about your business or bad about your career or where you're at in your life. I suggest that you should not be following any accounts that make you feel anything less than good and empowered. So again, if it's a situation like you want to support someone but you don't believe in their message or the media that they're sending out, in that case, I suggest muting them. Or if it's an account that you follow that you feel like you're having an unhealthy relationship, whether you're checking it too much, you're making too many comparisons about yourself, I would go ahead and just unfollow that account completely and just keep your social media as an inspirational source of positivity for you and your business. So the second way is limit posting. So decide how many posts a week is realistic for both your business and your mental health. So it's important to monitor our time ingesting social media, as we've discussed, and we're going to discuss a little bit more, but also as a business owner, sometimes it can be hard to balance the output as well. So when you post, you create a momentum that you feel like you have to check and respond to comments, etc., which for a thriving business is very true. This is why it's important to decide how many posts a week are realistic for your business, but also for your mental health. So limiting your output will help you not be glued to your phone constantly, day after day after day. And then you can also schedule your posts. So you can use an app like Later, which is a third-party app where you input your account, and then you can set up all your posts for the month if you would like. So you can spend a couple days or 1 week for the whole month putting together all your posts in consecutive order on which days and what time you'd like them to be posted. You can make your whole write-up section and everything you want, add in your hashtags, and spend 1 or 2 days building it up for the month, and then your phone just kind of can go on autopilot and you can check in when you feel like it. So that's another way that you can moderate posting. As a business, you want to be posting as much as possible because you want to be in front of people, but also that can come at a cost too, especially if you are a solopreneur, as I like to call it, where it's, party of one, and you're running your social media and your business, and doing all the work and bookkeeping and everything. It's important to be mindful of how much time you're glued to your phone. So maybe an app like Later would be a good choice for you to help you kind of take a step back and then decide when you want to engage. For me and my business, I try to post 2 times a week or every 3 days, just depending. And I know that during the time that I post, I'm going to be glued to my phone quite a bit that day. So if I know that I have an important meeting or a seminar one day, I specifically will not post to my account that day because I want to be able to be interactive with people and be there for when I do post. So yeah, it's important to create a schedule for yourself and kind of stick to that schedule as best as you can to help create those boundaries. And then our last option here is a complete detox. So if you find your social media use has gotten out of control, you might consider doing a detox. So this point is especially good if you've tried the first 2 points. So if you've tried setting up limitations on the app, and then you've tried limiting your posting to just a couple times a week, and you're still finding that you're having a bit of issues being connected to your phone, you can try doing a complete detox. So a social media detox is where you completely abstain from using any apps. Some people delete the apps from their phone completely during this time to avoid the tendency to want to look at them, and others move the programs into folders that are less accessible on your phone. It really depends on where you're at and how you're feeling. After the first few days of your detox, you might start to notice that you are feeling more calm, have less anxiety, and have more time in your life for other activities. A detox is also a great way to gauge where you are at with your social media use. You will notice how often you want to go to the apps on your phone and how you are feeling. It will also help you to understand your triggers in regards to social media and how you can modify your use to be a healthier interaction. So this is really important, as with any kind of addictive media, to take a step back from it and kind of analyze, where am I at with this? How am I feeling? How drawn to my phone am I? Can I put my phone away for a day or a couple days, or can I delete the app and still conduct my business? A lot of times people feel like, their whole business is online and they can't step away from it, for even a couple hours, and it's important to set those limitations because the apps are very addictive, and it's important to be aware of. Okay, so we're going to move on to creating boundaries offline. So this is just as important, in my opinion, to maintaining a healthy mental health state and just balancing your overall life. So the first thing is to set morning and nighttime routines. So before I check my social media and emails in the morning, I try to make a point to make myself some hot lemon water or breakfast and set my intention for the day. This way I can ensure my thoughts are not already influenced by what I see online. At nighttime, I make sure to leave my phone in the kitchen, and I also try and plug it in an hour before I'm actually going to sleep, so I have some quiet time to unwind and relax. So these 2 points, I think, are so important. If you go to bed with your phone by your bed, and you're looking through social media and you're ingesting all this media, your mind doesn't have a time to relax. And also, all the things that you just were taking in will most likely be the first things that you think about when you wake up in the morning. And for me, I want to have a clear state of mind each day and start each day fresh. So I think it's very important to set these boundaries of morning and nighttime, especially at night. It's also important to know that phones do emit, EMFs, and it could be not great for your body to have your phone beside you constantly all day. So especially for me at night, I leave my phone in the kitchen quite far away from my bedroom. And that way, if there's any notifications or anything, at least I'm giving my body a break from being away from the electrical device. So yeah. The next point is going to be make time for exercise on airplane mode. So you can still hear your music, but you can get into that workout flow state and stay there without the distraction of Bing's constantly going. So if you are going to take some time for exercise, which is part of maintaining a healthy mental state and lifestyle, go ahead and turn your phone to airplane mode. So you can still have your music on, you can still have your phone with you, but by putting it on airplane mode, you won't be pulling yourself out of this state I call the flow state, or a lot of people refer to as a flow state, where you really get into an activity and you can allow your mind to rest for a while. So I think going an hour on airplane mode isn't going to hurt anybody. You know, those notifications will still be there when you turn your phone back on. But for the time where you're committing to, you know, that physical activity that you're doing, you won't be constantly distracted and pulled out. Number 3 is spend time outside. So spending time outside, always beneficial for mental health. This again, you could go for a walk with your phone on airplane mode, or you could just leave your phone at home. Like I said previously, sometimes I'll go for a walk with my partner and we'll leave our phones at home. There are so many people out there. People say, well, what if there's emergency? Well, there's pretty much everybody you see these days has a phone. So if you did happen to run into an emergency where you needed to call someone, I'm sure there's a person around you, at least in the city, that would be able to lend their phone to you and help you out for that emergency. Number 4, schedule in human connection time. So go out with friends and family and make a point to connect in person. So this is kind of a strange point to have to include in the presentation. I feel like it says a lot about where we're at in today's society with online media, that you have to remind yourselves or remind other people to schedule in human connection time. So schedule in time with your friends or your partner or your family member where your phone is not with you and you're there, and it will really help also to be present in the moment as opposed to be constantly going to your phone and back. Number 5 is set technology-free times. Set technology-free time rules. So an example of this would be no phones at the dinner table. So you get together, you want to have dinner with your family every night. No one's allowed to bring their phone to the dinner table. They have to leave it in the living room. And so you can actually have that time to spend with your family and really connect. And then number 6 is set technology-free zones in your home and workspace. So no phone in the bedroom, no phones in the bathroom. So for me, I have no technology in my bedroom at all. So I don't have a TV in my bedroom. We don't bring our phones into the bedroom. The laptop doesn't stay in the bedroom. Everything gets removed from the bedroom before we go to bed at night. Again, allowing us to have that peace of mind, have that time to relax, have the time with our own thoughts where we're not constantly distracted, and also be physically away from the devices for a while. Because if you think about it, you have your phone on you constantly, whether it's in your pocket or it's in your bag, and it does emit some electromagnetic frequencies, which different people have different opinions about, but I'll just say it would be nice to give your body some time to have the phone away from your physical body as well. And like I said, that also goes for laptops or anything digital. Okay, and so with saying all this, I just want to talk about the fact that social media is not bad. You just need to set healthy boundaries with it. So just like any other substance that's addictive, like alcohol or what have you, you have to set boundaries for it. And like I said at the beginning of the presentation, I think it's so crazy that people aren't talking about how the apps are built to be addictive. They're talking about how we're on them all the time. They're talking about how we overuse them. They're talking about how they're so close to us all the time. And they are talking about the effects that they are having and can have, but not a lot of people are talking about how the apps are built to be addictive. And I just think that's so important to understand in terms of understand why we need to set limitations about social media and about app use on our phone. Okay, so thank you everybody so much for your time. If anyone wants to connect with me, my website is myname.com, so CoriJaye.com, or you have my email there as well. And I'd like to take this opportunity to kind of open up the floor to have a discussion about this topic. So I guess my first question for everybody is, was there a specific point that resonated with you during this presentation that you can share with us? So if anybody, you think about that for a second, if anybody has a point that really struck them or made them think like, huh. Yeah, and I think that really speaks to our connection to it right now. And then also, just like you said, like there was a time where it didn't exist. Like there was a long time, and it hasn't even been around that long to the power that it is now, where we didn't even have social media, and you would go for a walk without your phone. Like that wasn't even a thing that you needed to discuss, right? So yeah, just like you said. Yeah, for sure. And like, just like you said, like not even just with the apps, but with the email too. Like as a business owner for me, I feel like I need to respond to emails like within like an hour, you know? And then I have to remind myself like, no, like, you can wait 24 hours or even 48 hours before you respond to any email, and that's still acceptable, right? But you're right, we feel like we need to be like right on it, responding all the time. Like the second someone DMs you, the second someone sends you an email, like you need to be there, you need to be responding. And it's really important to, like you said, remind yourself like, no, actually, like it's okay. I can take a step back. I don't have to be, connected to this device constantly. And like, just furthermore, to do a detox in that situation where you feel like that, you'll really see like, oh yeah, like there is a world out there. There is, a world out there for me to explore that's not just on my phone. And, there is so much focus on the phones that people don't really talk about that, but that's why I think it's so important to remind yourself to take time and go out. So go for walks outside and spend time outside. Go to events where you don't have your phone on you and you're not constantly taking pictures. Recently, me and my partner went to Shenyang, which was a really beautiful performance at the Centennial Concert Center. And they had, right when you came in, flashing on the screen, or on the curtains, they had projected no phones, no pictures, no video. And then when they started the presentation, they said it's an infringement of copyright, so please do not take pictures, and they even spoke about it as well. And I thought that was like so great, because a lot of time when you go to shows, you see people like videotaping or taking their phones out, and that's inappropriate for these types of shows. It can be distracting to the dancers and the people performing, and it's also nice to just have some time, it's nice for me to just have some time with my partner and just like enjoy the performance that these people have worked so hard to put on for me, so yeah. Yeah. So I think that having the phone outside of the bedroom at night is like life changing. Like once you can get that habit into place. So like what I would suggest to you is that instead of just leaving your phone outside of the bedroom, also put it on silent when you leave it outside of the bedroom. So if you're just leaving it in another room and you can still hear it binging, of course, you're gonna wanna go see like, oh, just one more text, or oh, I'll just respond to this one more message, and then, oh, I'm tired, so I'm just gonna take it into my bed, So it's with any type of habit, it does take time to build, and it's not like, it's not abnormal for you to have a hard time with that, because just like we talked about today, the apps are so addictive, the phone is so addictive and has become so ingrained in the life, right? But I think putting it on silent, first and foremost. And then also, if you could set up a new routine for yourself, like positive affirmations is a really good one. So gratitude. So every time you go to bed at night, you're going to think about 3 things that you're grateful for. So you put your phone on silent, you plug it in, and then you leave it, and then you go on to do your next task before bed, which is being grateful. So I'm grateful for my thoughts. I'm grateful for this time away from my phone. I'm grateful for this upcoming good sleep. You can do a gratitude journal or write something down, but you can also try and replace that behavior of taking your phone into your bedroom with a new behavior that will positively affect your life. I think that's a really good one. But there's also in the morning, so another good reason to keep your phone out of your bedroom that I didn't cover before is that if you set an alarm for yourself in the morning and you're someone who constantly hits the snooze button, by having your phone in the kitchen or outside of your bedroom, you literally force yourself to physically stand up, walk outside of the bedroom, walk to go get your phone. And then by that time, are you going to hit snooze again? You might, but at least you're already physically up and you're not going to slip back into that deep sleep that you would if you just hit the snooze button right away. So that's another benefit that I thought I'd share. But yeah, very good point. It's very hard to break that phone to the bed habit. But once you do, you'll see the benefits for sure. Yeah, for sure. So I would say 2 things that I have to say about that. The first thing is that other people's expectations of you or their response to you and how your relationship with your phone is on them. So even though you feel like you have to be there for that person or they're, yelling at you for not being there, that's on them. And you need to separate that, you can't affect how other people are going to react to you. But if you know for you that you needed to go for that walk or you needed to spend that hour at the gym with your phone on silent, then you have to do that for you, for your mental health and for your well-being. And of course, you can always say to that person, I've been taking some time away from my phone, or, you can explain to them too, because that might help others. Sharing your own experience often helps others, but I wouldn't, you don't have to be caught up in other people's expectations of you because that's on them, the emergencies. Sorry, this is one other thing that I wanted to talk about. So people often say, well, what if there was an emergency, right? This comes up a lot. And before we had cell phones on us constantly, we didn't have cell phones on us constantly. We had a phone in the kitchen and you'd go out, for your day, and if you needed to make a call or something happened, you'd go to a pay phone or you'd ask someone in their business if you could use their phone. There was forever, our whole lives up to this point had been spent without cell phones. So how did we deal with things back then, So I think that's something to think about. And then also, I'm not going to get into this too much, but I would want you to think about what really is an emergency. And if that happened, would the outcome of the emergency change if you had your phone with you or not? Or is it just that you would feel more secure knowing about it sooner, right? So, for example, if, my partner goes out and hurts his leg, heaven forbid, slips on ice and hurts himself, and I don't have my cell phone on, is his hurt hand going to change, in that hour that I've spent at the gym on airplane mode? Or is he still going to be in the same state when I come see him and I can comfort him at that point? So obviously not the best example, but you sort of get what I'm trying to say, right? The outcome is not necessarily going to change if there is an emergency, if your phone isn't on for that direct moment. So that I would challenge you to think about that a little bit further, because it is kind of you're right, you feel like you have to be there, you have to be on it. And if someone has an issue, maybe not even an emergency, I feel a lot of times they're not actual emergencies, they're just they want you when they want you to be there, so you have to protect yourself against being with your phone constantly, and that kind of constantly being scared that something's going to happen, I would encourage you to go through what would actually happen and what would the difference be if I had my phone on me. So it's very important to set those boundaries, just like you said, because it's like for some people, I think that the main part is to be aware. And I would commend everybody for being here today because it shows that you're aware, you know, and not everybody is aware. So not everybody is aware that the phone can be an issue, or that the phone can be addictive, or that the phone has these, you know, things that comes along with it. And so for you being aware for yourself and creating those boundaries, I think it's important to share those with others because, like you said, you need to create your own boundaries for you. And then also you can get other people to start thinking like, hey, you know, maybe I should be setting some boundaries. Like, why am I expecting her to be here? Why am I expecting her to email me back in 3 hours? Like, is that a realistic expectation of me, you know? And in that way, we can influence others with our own actions. Yeah, I think that's important. I totally feel that way too. I totally feel that way. Like anytime my phone goes off, especially if it's someone who like isn't my family or doesn't normally call me, I'm like, oh my God, why are they calling me? Like, why aren't they just texting me? Like, what is wrong? I know, it's so crazy. And I think that goes to talk about maybe like our generation and just how much of the influence the phone has and how the way of communication has changed, right? Like I would just text you. Like why aren't I just texting you? Like why am I calling you? Something must be wrong, right? Where in reality, like maybe you just wanted to personally invite me to something, or you know, it could be totally nice. Yeah, and I think a lot of the time it isn't an emergency again, right? Like there's this fear ingrained of this like emergency, but like really rarely is something actually an emergency. At least I found that in my life with people calling me or that kind of thing. But yeah, that I totally feel that too. For me personally, I feel like I think it depends on uh, your your personal boundaries and where you're at. So, for example, if you were having a hard time with not using the apps constantly, then it might be something that you'd want to use. But for me, for example, like my main app is Instagram. So my problem would be with Instagram. Like if I had a problem checking it constantly, it would be with Instagram, and it is with Instagram. So the the monitoring system that's built into Instagram works for me. Like that's good enough for me because it's built right into the app. But if you're feeling like you're having problems with multiple apps, like outside of Instagram and Facebook, then I definitely think that a third-party app that can monitor everything would be a good solution for you. If it's just Instagram or just Facebook, or you're just, you know, if your apps that you're interacting with the most have that feature in them, then I don't think there's a need. But if it's your entire phone, like if it's not, you know, you also want to play games and you also want to, you know, do this and do that, then I think that would be a good time to introduce one of those apps. And I don't have a recommendation for that because I just use the one on my Instagram. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I'm so happy that you found something to help moderate and that you're aware of it and that you're here today like sharing that with us. That's really powerful. I think that there should be, you know, this should be for everyone, you know, not just the people that acknowledge that it's an issue. It should be talked about for everyone. And I don't feel like currently in today's society at this point, it is necessarily just readily available, and to have, you know, like ways to moderate it, like your Google account, which I think is great. Yeah, I feel like there needs to be more discussion about it. So I'm just so happy that people are here discussing it tonight. This is great. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. There's all sorts of blocking that you can do on websites and stuff as well. But yeah, that Shaw, that's a really good one too. There's all these resources too. Like I didn't know about that one. I don't have cable, but I do have internet at home. And like you said, like that would be a good feature, especially if you have young kids, or you know, just to be able to moderate things in the household. Yeah, you can totally, and you can dial things back just like you said. Also, like in terms of just dialing it back, but not doing like a complete detox. Um, like I had mentioned before with apps, some people remove the apps from their home screen. So even just not looking at it, not being triggered to open it, you move it to like one of your side swipe screens, for lack of a better word. Or you can create a folder where you can put the apps in the folder. So you're creating an extra step for you to get to the apps, just so they're not quite in your face like that. And just like you said, if you do want to dial things back, or you do want to start muting people, or you do find that there's a bunch of toxic accounts to yourself on your media, you can do it like as it comes up. You don't have to feel like you have to do it all at once, just like you said. So, this account has been coming up and bugging me because, I see something of myself in it, or I feel like it has a poor message or whatever. Just block, mute, whatever, unfollow, and then keep going with your normal use of the app. The thing is, like, it's not like I said, social media is not bad or good. It just depends on your interaction with it, and it's important to like set those boundaries. But yeah, just like you said, you can do it like a little bit. You can go cold turkey and do full detox. It really depends on like you and how you feel and what's best for you. Yeah. Does anybody have any other points to share? Or any questions? That's good. Great. Well, thank you so much for coming today. This was really great. It was so nice to be able to have this, meaningful discussion with people, and that other people, just to see that other people in the community are thinking about these things and are aware of them. Because I think really the first step in this process is to be aware. So, yeah, thank you so much.